Hello, welcome to the channel. It's your boy EO here. So how was Nairobi my first love? And how did I come to that conclusion? Well, you know when you go to a place, right? And you've gone to so many places, but instantly when you go to that one place, everything just clicks. It's like everything was set up for you to be in that place. You know, it was like God has sent me a sign that you know Nairobi is for me. So some people go around the world, but they don't find their place. Like they still haven't found a place that suits them as a person. And when they do, for example, when I found my place, which is Nairobi, Kenya, they go to other countries and they don't really look at the other countries the same way as they do with Nairobi. Like, for example, if I was to go on holiday, right, which has happened to me countless of times, is what would happen is that I would go to a country and I would always compare it to Nairobi. And it turns out that Nairobi wins every single time. You know, it could be as little as, you know, is it safe? You know, all these little signs, you know, is what kind of made me choose Nairobi and decide that Nairobi is my first love, you know. And one of those signs was the people. It was the most important sign. When I first landed in Nairobi, I got off the plane, I went to my accommodation, and the first morning I woke up in the beautiful city of Nairobi. I went to a local cafe and I interacted with the locals, you know, and I just wanted to ask them, you know, how is Nairobi, you know, what is it like in Nairobi? Because I was new. I don't know anything, you know. So, you know, the people were just always smiling and, you know, trying to start a conversation, which I feel like is a very important trait. You know, especially like if you're going to any country, you know, the customer service needs to be, you know, top level, you know, and personally, that's the experience that I kind of rely on. You know, I feel like if it's your first day in a country and instantly you've been to 3 restaurants and the customer service is poor, that kind of tells you a lot about the people. After that interaction with the woman in the cafe, it kind of set my expectations for that trip and everything went smoothly. You know, the Uber ride would come in 2 minutes, whereas in London, you know, sometimes you go in an Uber, they're not really gonna try to have a conversation with you. So these were the things that made me just fall in love with Nairobi. And they say that the people of the country is what makes the country, you know. I'm not going to feel like I belong in a country where the people are rude and they're not welcoming, you know. Because, yes, you can say that the people don't matter, but they do. You know, if you're going to live in a country, you need to be in a environment where you can feel like you can get along with the people, make new friends. Because if you don't, or if you can't, then your social life is going to go downhill. And what's the point of going to a country and not having a good social life, you know? I might as well just go back to the UK to experience a boring social life where no one wants to, you know, hang out or talk and everybody is cold. I would rather be back in the UK. I would say the people is the most important thing that made me call Nairobi my first love. And also, you know, they say that food is a way to a man's heart. You know, like when you have your own wife, right? And she cooks amazing. It's like you've got all these ingredients of love, of being caring, all of these ingredients into one food. And it makes you just fall in love. You know, that was kind of the process of the way I felt in Nairobi. You know, the way they made the food and everything, it was so nice that even now that I'm back in the UK, I miss it so much. I'm always craving that food. And, you know, because I go to the gym, right, I need to keep up my physique, you know. But then in the UK, right, they're serving me small portions. So I'm having to buy twice what I would normally buy in Kenya, for example. Like in Kenya, they're serving you with a big meal. And for me, that's a big guy, you know, that's like heaven on earth, you know. I can choose from a variety of foods and I always know that they're going to give me a big portion. It's going to be mixed with love, with kindness, with all these different ingredients, and it's going to be put into the food. And it was one of the reasons why it was so difficult for me to leave at first, because of that reason. So what has this taught me? It's taught me that I never really knew this at the beginning, but it's taught me that I'm so in love with the African culture and the African way of life, you know. Before, when I was a kid, I would be eating all of these English food like sausage rolls and all this. But as I grew older, it made me realize that actually, hold on, I'm actually a African man, you know. I'm proper Af, you know. You can't be afraid to show the way you are, you know, your true self. You know, there's no point hiding and pretending to be someone that you're not. You have to embrace your African side, you know, your African way of life. And some of the people that don't embrace it, like for example in the UK, in the US, they have that kind of whitewashed, you know, how do I say it, English mentality. You know, in Nigeria we call that Onyibo. It means white mentality. You know how these like Caucasian people, white people in the UK or the US act, you know, it's just a different way of life, you know. Like for example, if you go to a African uncle, you know, let's say that he wants to buy food from the grocery store, he's gonna buy like a whole bag of food and he's gonna bring it home to his family. Whereas the white man or the Caucasian man, whatever, yeah, they might just bring a small portion of meal back home and be like, there you go, you know, this is your dinner. So those type of traits, and it's made me realize that I'm more towards the African side. It just shows you that, you know, embracing yourself, embracing, you know, your culture, your African root, is just gonna make you feel more alive. All of these stuff, it made me realize that Nairobi is the place for me to be that way. I can show my African side and no one's gonna care, no one is gonna be judging me. But if okay, cool, let's say if I wear my traditional Nigerian attire in the UK, right? If I was to wear that, do you know how many people would be looking at me? They would be looking at me funny, saying, why is this guy wearing this? You know, this guy must be crazy. You know, yes, the UK will still be a part of me, but my African side is what makes up most of me, you know? And it's because of the way I was brought up, you know? If I was to do something, my mom would smack me in the face, or she would smack me, you know, if I was to do something wrong. You know, so those kind of influences and, you know, the way you've been brought up, it actually shapes you to who you are meant to be, you know. So if you want any more inspiration on moving to Africa, moving to Kenya, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and comment down below what you think. Peace.